The invisible tax, how financial repression quietly transfers wealth from the people to the state. 1. Introduction, the hidden confiscation of modern wealth. Imagine working hard your entire life, saving every penny, investing wisely, only to wake up one day and realize that everything you've built is being quietly taken from you. Not through a tax hike. Not through theft. But through an invisible system designed to transfer your wealth without you ever noticing. This system is called financial repression, a policy toolkit governments use to inflate away debt, control interest rates, and keep citizens dependent. It's been running silently since the moment you opened your first bank account. Footnote 1. Financial repression is not conspiracy, it is macroeconomic policy disguised as stability. 2. The debt dilemma, default or destroy. Governments always spend more than they earn: wars, welfare, bailouts, votes. That debt never disappears, it compounds. When debt grows too large, two doors remain open: default, which means political suicide, or inflation, which quietly destroys debt's real value. Inflation is the more elegant poison. It appears as rising prices, but in truth, it is the slow transfer of purchasing power from the citizen to the state. Footnote 2. Inflation is the only form of taxation that requires no legislation, only compliance. 3. The mechanics, how financial repression works. Financial repression is built on three interlocking gears: low interest rates, below inflation; high inflation, eroding real returns; capital controls, trapping citizens inside the system. When inflation runs at 4% and your savings earn 2%, you're losing 2% a year in real terms. It feels invisible, but it's measurable. Every dollar saved buys less, and every dollar owed by the government becomes easier to repay. Footnote 3. The brilliance of repression lies in its stealth: no protest, no vote, no outrage, just slow erosion. 4. The post-war experiment, how the West erased its debt after World War II. Both the US and UK faced mountains of war debt. Instead of austerity, they chose inflation. Central banks capped interest rates, governments forced banks and pension funds to buy government bonds. Savers were trapped, returns could not outpace inflation. By the 1950s, debt to GDP ratios were falling rapidly. Not because bills were paid, but because inflation erased the value of what was owed. Footnote 4. Between 1945 to 1980, Britain's average inflation was twice the bond yield, half the debt vanished in real terms. 5. Modern revival, the 21st century reset. Fast forward to today. Global debt now exceeds 300% of world GDP. In the United States alone, it surpasses $34 trillion. There is no mathematical path to repayment, only management through inflation. In 2020, central banks cut rates to zero and printed trillions in liquidity. They didn't save the system, they reset it. Governments once again discovered the perfect formula: let inflation run, let wages lag, and let citizens believe it's all under control. Footnote 5. Quantitative easing is simply a rebranding of monetary dilution. 6. The trap, how savers finance the state. You deposit money expecting growth. Instead, your savings finance public debt. Low rates punish caution, inflation rewards leverage. Those with assets, stocks, real estate, private equity, benefit most. Those without, lose fastest. This isn't a flaw, it's the structure. The design ensures that prudence funds speculation, and the middle class subsidizes the system that impoverishes it. Footnote 6. The wealth effect creates consumption illusions while widening inequality. 7. The illusion of stability, why governments can't stop. Why not simply raise interest rates? Because doing so would bankrupt the borrower, the state itself. Every percentage point increase adds billions in debt service. So central banks maintain the illusion of control by suppressing yields and redefining inflation as temporary. Behind every press conference is a simple truth: they can't stop inflation without collapsing their own balance sheet. Footnote 7. Stability is the most dangerous illusion of all. It conceals insolvency. 8. Global synchrony. The architecture of control. Financial repression is now global. From Tokyo to London to Washington, every central bank plays the same song: cheap credit, quiet confiscation. Citizens are told they are free to save, but only in assets the state controls. Offshore movement of capital is restricted, and independent stores of value are mocked or regulated. In reality, the system is coordinated. The US dollar sets the rhythm, the rest of the world follows the beat. Footnote 8. Globalization has synchronized monetary repression into one worldwide feedback loop. 9. The psychological game. Theft that feels like bad luck. Why don't people rebel? Because inflation hides its tracks. It doesn't feel like theft, it feels like life getting more expensive. The number in your account stays the same. Only its meaning changes. People adapt, not protest. They blame markets or corporations instead of the policy architecture draining them. Footnote 9. The genius of repression is psychological. It erases accountability along with value. 10. Case studies: Japan and Europe. Japan, interest rates near zero for decades. Citizens feel secure, but their purchasing power has been stagnant since the 1990s. Their savings finance state debt, not personal growth. Europe, negative interest rates crippled pension funds and retirees. By the time inflation surged in the 2020s, debt had doubled. Raising rates risked collapse, so the ECB accepted inflation as a lesser evil. Footnote 10. Both Japan and Europe prove the same rule: repression can persist for decades, but it never ends well. 11. The digital turn. From repression to total control. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, represent the final stage of financial repression. With programmable money, governments can enforce negative rates, spending limits, or expiry dates directly. No more physical escape routes, no more cash under the mattress. In a world of digital-only money, every transaction is traceable, taxable, and reversible. The monetary cage becomes invisible, yet total. Footnote 11. CBDCs transform repression from passive erosion to active enforcement. 12. The historical cycle. Empires and the erosion of trust. Rome debased silver to fund wars. Britain debased sterling to preserve empire. America debases dollars to preserve dominance. The mechanics differ, the pattern doesn't. Each time debt overwhelms an empire, inflation becomes policy. Each time inflation destroys trust, the empire tightens control. And every time control peaks, people find a way out: a new money, a new system, a new beginning. Footnote 12. Monetary corruption precedes moral decline. When money dies, civilizations follow. 13. The moral question. When honesty no longer pays in repressed systems, virtue becomes a liability. Savers are punished, speculators rewarded. Governments praise prudence while subsidizing debt. This inversion of values corrodes not just balance sheets, but societies. When thrift is punished and deceit rewarded, decline is not a question of economics, it's a question of ethics. Footnote 13. Inflation doesn't just devalue currency, it devalues character. 14. The reckoning. What comes after repression? Financial repression always ends the same way, with a loss of confidence. When citizens finally understand the invisible tax, they flee into land, gold, commodities, or decentralized money. Once trust collapses, no decree can restore it. Policymakers will respond with more control, wealth taxes, capital restrictions, digital freezes, but these are the last acts of a dying system. Footnote 14. Every repressed empire eventually faces its Volcker moment or its fall. 15. Conclusion: awareness as the first escape. Financial repression is not merely an economic condition, it's a moral mirror. It reveals how far governments will go to preserve power at the expense of truth. But awareness is resistance. To see the game is to step outside of it. Real wealth will belong to those who anchor in value, assets grounded in reality, not policy. Commodities, productive enterprise, and self-reliance are not just investments, they are acts of sovereignty. Footnote 15. Awareness is the first asset no state can confiscate.